welcome back! Today we're going to be talking about the ACOTAR series. Disclaimer, I will be pronouncing these character names however I want, so I'm sorry in advance if that is annoying. Second of all, I will be talking about spoilers, but I'll warn you before I start each book. We're going to start out with A Court of Thorns and Roses. I didn't like this book at all for the first third. Skinning the Wolf? Gruesome. The description of Fair's father getting his knee bashed in? Nasty. Family is so cold, Fair is so bitter and cynical. The history of all the fairy stuff is just confusing. It was just not for me. It started to get better when Tamlin came into the picture. I have actually never read anything about fairies before besides Cassandra Clare's books, and I didn't really think I was into them, but I found myself being intrigued by the dynamic between humans and fairies, the dynamics between the different courts. Unexpectedly, I really liked Delusion. It was very generous of Tamlin to set up Fair's family money-wise. I know Nesta gets a lot of hate, but I kind of like her, like I feel where she's coming from. Once we got to Under the Mountain, that's where things started getting wild. It was so intense, it was so good. It was kind of like nothing I've ever read, honestly. I know people think that the riddle's answer being love was cheesy, but I thought it was really sweet. I loved that part. Now what we all came here for, let's talk Rysand. I knew from book Tik-Tok, or book talk, that he was going to be important. So I was shocked when he didn't show up until Colin May. But from then on, I was intrigued. Who is this gorgeous, kind of mysterious, maybe bad man? Who is he? What's he about? Everything he did could be seen in so many different ways. Whole Claire thing, the betting thing, the healing Fair thing, the bargain. Is it because he's bad? Is it because he's good? Is it because he's acting in his own self-interest? Is he trying to help Farah? Is he a double agent? Is he just trying to taunt Tamlin? Like, what is his angle? I don't know. The whole book I was trying to figure it out. And then he goes and freaks out when Farah is dying. What does that mean? I knew from book talk that people hate Tamlin, so I knew he sucks, but I kept trying to figure out, like, how does he suck? Why does he suck? When is this all going to come together? I could not put the pieces together until book 2. Book 2, A Court of Mist and Fury. Quick side story about this book. Right after I finished A Court of Thorns and Roses, I immediately knew that I needed to read the next book, so I ordered it on Barnes & Noble, but it did not give me a shipping estimate, so I had no idea when it was coming in. I waited 2 days, but I was losing my mind, so then I decided to see if my local library had it. Well, guess what? They had it in ebook form, but guess what? My library card wasn't working, so I had to apply to get a new library card. They only had 1 copy of the ebook left, so the whole time I'm applying, I'm freaking out. I managed to get the card, I get my copy of the book, I get a couple chapters in, and then my books are delivered from Barnes & Noble, and it was a roller coaster ride, but at least they eventually came in. First of all, wow. Just wow. Maybe one of the best books I've ever read in my life. The character development in this book. I think this might be one of my favorite books of all time. Like, no joke. Rysand's character development in particular is insane. I mean, he saves her from this wedding disaster. Then he teaches her how to read. Then he helps her understand her self-worth. Then he introduces her to all of his cool friends. And we find out more and more about him, and we just start to love him. We love him so much. Top it off, he's just the best person ever. He always puts Fair's well-being first. The way he calls Fair darling, gives me literal goosebumps. It's so cute. Valeris is beautiful. Starfall is beautiful. There's so many beautiful scenes in this series, and I love it. It's gorgeous. Right, let's just get it out of the way right now. Chapter 55. Was it epic? Yes. Did it live up to the hype? Yes. But let's talk about the other scenes that were just as epic, in my opinion. Number 1, the part where they go to see the bone carver in the prison. So much truth comes out during this part. Number 2, the Court of Nightmares is perhaps the hottest scene I've ever read in my life. Number 3, chapter 48, when the inn only has 1 bed. When Farah says all she wants from Rhys is fun, my heart sank. That was so sad. Next up, chapter 54, Rysand's declaration of love. I literally could not believe that he'd known that he was in love and mates with Farah since the first book. That's crazy. And of course, chapter 49, when the Suriel tells Farah that they're mates, and she's shocked, and we're all shocked, but also we kind of knew it, and it's like, she kind of must have known too. Like, it was crazy. I loved that scene. Also, I thought it was hilarious when she's so mad at him. She's so mad because he knew this whole time that they were mates, but honestly, there was no good time to tell her, so like, I get it. Now let's talk about the inner circle. I love them. I love the dynamics. I love each individual characters. I love every single thing about them. It's perfect. They're the perfect squad. I'm obsessed with them. Okay, I hate when everything gets compared to Twilight because there's more to YA than just Twilight. Having said that, I love Twilight, and I have Twilight on the brain because of Midnight Sun coming out in literally less than a week. So, I did see some parallels. I thought that Moore was Alice Cullen because they're both bubbly, powerful, and friendly. Azriel is Jasper because they have mysterious backstories. They're quiet, protective, and can kind of sense things. Cassian's total Emmett. Hilarious, strong, hilarious. Oh my god, that scene where he's training Farah and she opens up to him and he understands what she's talking about and going through. That just hit me right in the heart. Nesta's Rosalie, obviously, beautiful but very, very cold. I really can't wait to see what happens between Nesta and Cassian, but I'll save that for a little later in the video. I love Twilight, but I almost felt like this book offered a more nuanced, fleshed out version of these characters, so I thought that was really cool to see. Amryn is dope too, obviously. I hated the mortal queens. They were horrible. Backstabbing betrayers. I loved the letter that Rysand wrote to them. The whole summer court thing super stressed me out. It was like watching a heist movie. And I felt really bad for the High Lord. I really think he's a good guy. The ring thing with the Weaver? Oh my god. The minute she saw it was a ring, I was like, okay, that's gonna be a wedding ring. I was weirdly very stressed and paranoid for the first 300 pages because I was just so sure that Farah was gonna go back to the Spring Court and kind of accidentally tell a lot of secrets about the Night Court, so I was just really, really scared. I was so relieved when that didn't happen. However, when Tamlin was willing to kill Rysand, turn Farah's sisters into High Fae, and ally with the Highborn King, putting both the human realm and the fairy realm in danger, all to get Farah back, I could not believe my eyes. I could not believe it. He doesn't own Farah. She left you, dude. Deal with it. I can't tell if it's pride or possession that's fueling him, but either way, dude needs some help. When Farah and Rysand's bargain broke, that was devastating. Thank God their mating bond can't be broken because I don't know how I'd recover from that. I was very interested to see what happened with Lucien and Elaine after that scene. They do kind of balance each other out because he's kind of grumpy and she's just so like soft and nice and warm. And he deserves a happy ending. He's been through a lot. I loved that Rysand made Farah the High Lady. That was just so sweet, and equal partnership between them is truly inspiring. Next up, we have A Court of Wings and Ruin. Okay, in the beginning, when Farah's in the Spring Court, her plotting was so clever. Like, it was very well thought out, very strategic. I was very impressed. It worked like a charm, but it did kind of backfire in the end, though. Because not having the Spring Court there as a barrier before the wall, wasn't the best idea. I'm so glad Farah took Lucien with her when she escaped back to the Night Court. I think he's a good guy who's just trying to be loyal to his buddy, but he just got roped into it, and then he didn't know how to get out, so I'm really glad he got out of that situation. Plus, seeing him in the Court of Dreams, I feel like was a turning point for him because he realizes not everything is what he thought it was, and I think that's a really important milestone for him. The whole thing with the Autumn Court and Lucien looking at where he, used to be and his brothers, I really hoped when I was reading it, they were kind of foreshadowing that Lucien was going to become the High Lord of the Autumn Court. However, now that I know he is Helian's son from the Day Court, obviously that changes everything. It's like, I want Lucien to become a High Lord, but I don't want anybody to die for him to have to do it. You know what I mean? And the whole thing with Eris, I think he's a good guy, but I don't know. So we'll see. I'm excited to see how that whole thing pans out. As long as Bayron is dead, I don't care. Also, did anybody sometimes get Moore's dad, Kier, confused with Lucien's dad, Bayron? Because they kind of have the exact same personality as far as I'm concerned. It was the sweetest reunion between Rysand and Feyre. I loved how they just kind of sat on the floor and just caught up. The whole thing with Jurian kind of confused me for a while. It was hard to tell exactly what his deal was. I don't know, I was just confused. There were too many sides to his story and it was never told, like, in a straight line. But when we found out that he was a good guy and sane, that was really cool. That was a great plot twist. I'm very curious what he, Miriam, and Draken talked about during the whole battle scene. Also, to add to my Twilight theory, in this one, Elaine has visions like Alice. I loved the meeting with all of the High Lords, just really getting to know more about them and their kingdom, and the interactions between the different kingdoms was fascinating. I was really surprised when Feyre told Rhys to just act like himself, because their whole strategy of intimidating the other High Lords really has worked well for the past, like, 500 years, and I was just really surprised that he was so willing to put that shield down and that she would think that would be the best strategy, but then it did end up being the best strategy. So, what do I know? I don't think the other lords would have backed Rysand if he hadn't come forward and just been who he is. So, I really do think it worked out for the best, but it was shocking for me. I liked how Nesta started to soften up and she wanted to help and she kind of became part of the team. I really liked that. But then I do feel like her father's death made her kind of regress, so that was unfortunate. When I found out that the Bone Carver was appearing to Feyre as her and Rysand's future child, that killed me. That straight up killed me. What? I cried. Speaking of crying, I made a list of all the times I cried while reading this book. I cried when Tamlin's Wind helped Feyre get away from the bad guys and escape with Az. I cried when Feyre says everyone matters in 598 and they winnow everyone one by one out of the human village where the war is going to take place. I cried when the Suriel died and he knew he was being tracked, but he went there anyway because Feyre was kind. I cried at the speech Rysand gave before they marched into the final battle. I cried when Feyre looked into the mirror and she saw everything she was, the good and the bad, and she accepted that about herself, and she loved both the good and the bad. I could cry right now thinking about it, but she loved both the good and the bad. I cried from the part where Rysand literally died, okay, to the part where Feyre tells him in her mind to come back and all the reasons she loves him and all the visions she has for their future together. And lastly, I cried when Elaine said the world needed more gardens. Like, that choked me up. Because the world does need more gardens, you know? Oh my god, these were the plot twists that shook me to my very core. When Draken and their whole team arrived to help on the battlefield. When the freaking dad, out of literally everyone, I never would have expected the dad to be the one to bring in reinforcements. Like, that he tracked down the Cursed Queen blows my frickin' mind. I cannot believe they killed off the dad right after that moment where he redeems himself. I can't believe Elaine, of all people, is the one to kill the King of Hybern. What? I couldn't believe Amren was willing to sacrifice herself. For a second, though, I totally thought she was a traitor. Like, she'd done all this stuff just to be free of her body and, like, be a god in this world, but no. But when Rysand died, I literally died. I was like, I can't read this book. I am devastated. This is the worst thing ever. And we're in the middle of a pandemic, but, like, in real life. But it was just shocking to me. Love the deal that Rysand and Feyre made to die at the same time. Like, that's beautiful. The ending was beautiful. This book was amazing. The one question I had was when Tamlin gives the, like, healing life force power thing to save Rysand, Feyre says there was an emotion she couldn't place in Tamlin's eyes. Like, what the fudge? What was the emotion? Was it pity? Was it love? Was it resentment? Like, what was the emotion? Like, I need to know. Anyway, that was a question I had about that. But overall, that book is amazing. I love it. It did such a good job of providing closure. It was just very well done. These books are my life now. I love them. I think you should read them if you haven't read them. If you have read them, refer them to a friend. Don't let people like me sleep on them for 5 years. It's not right. It is not right. Alright, as always, like, subscribe, comment, and share. Bye! Question: should I read Throne of Glass?